Hey, what's up everybody? So in today's video, we're going to talk about stealth parking. I'm going to put stealth in quotations because is there really such a thing as stealth parking? Well, I'm going to get into that in this video. How to find parking, not so much on free government land, but more so on streets, suburbs, and things like that. I lived full-time in a van for 3.5 years, and the majority of that was actually on the pavement. And what I mean by that is in cities, suburbs, predominantly on the West Coast, so I'm going to touch mostly upon that. However, this will go over a lot of just cities in general and how to find stealth parking, how to find parking in general, what to do, how to do it, you know, how to move about your day, all while living in a van. So if you're ready for all that, let's get started. All right, if you guys are new to the channel, consider subscribing. What I do here is talk a lot about van life. However, I am touching more upon tiny living, tiny house design, layout. My degree is in architectural engineering. I have personally built out 2 vans. One was a pretty much full DIY with my dad. The second one was, I call a DIY assist, where I had professionals help me with certain aspects of the van build, such as heating and electrical and some plumbing issues that I just didn't want to tackle myself. I've worked a lot with professional van builders, and I also have friends in the industry, as I like to call backyard builders. There's nothing against them. They pump out 2 to 3 vans per year, while a professional van builder will pump out 12, 15, 20 vans per year, depending on the company. That's not what this video is about. How to park your van and where? What are we doing? Very excited that this video is sponsored by Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community, and listen, I have talked about this many times in the past before, and I could go on and on, but instead of going into all of that for you, why not talk about the amazing instructors these people are, the amazing teachers these people are, like Aaron Draplin, for example, teaches a class called 777. You want to get into graphic design? He is just one of the many people that you can learn from, and he is there teaching a course on before, during, and after graphic design, how to really fine-tune everything that you need to know about graphic design. I wanted to learn how to make my own graphic design for my own logos and t-shirts and hats and anything else that I have for merch. You got to take Aaron's class, and then you got to learn some stuff. I got to learn from other teachers as well. And that's what the beauty of Skillshare is. It has plenty of opportunities for you to look at all the different types of people and courses. So what are you waiting for? Go click the link below and get your free trial today. After your trial is done, it's a very low monthly fee for a premium membership, and you can have access to everything on Skillshare. Click the link below. So I've actually done 2 videos on stealth parking before this one. One way back in my first van, I was actually parked in the location that I parked at for like 8 months, which was in front of a police station in Hollywood. That was my first area that I ever parked in when I had my first van. Kind of crazy. On the street that I was parked at, there was actually a lot of other RVers, plain as day, living out of. I mean, at the end of the day, it was Los Angeles, and there was a lot of people living out of cars and RVs or vans in the Los Angeles area. So maybe you're asking yourself, how many door knocks did I get, you know, in the time that I was in Hollywood? 0, goose egg, nada. I actually didn't get my first door knock until I was living up in Portland. I was in a very safe suburb, and I got a door knock at like 7 a.m. We'll get into that later. And then the second video I did was with my very good friend Marty from his actual channel is called From the Van, and he also has a podcast, From the Van. Really nice guy, but that was a long video. We kind of just riffed on stealth parking for an hour. There's a lot of information in that video, and it's a lot to take in. And I will also say these are my opinions. There's going to be some disagreement with me. Okay, there's going to be people that are going to think that they know better than me. That's fine. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, who knows. And there's going to be the people, when I say something, there's going to be the anomalies, right? Well, this didn't work for me, or that didn't work for me, or I knew someone that did this. Yes, they're called anomalies, people. I mean, it is what it is. This is just what I have experienced, what I know. I've traveled from LA to Tennessee. I went from Boston to LA, Boston to somewhere else, San Diego. I've traveled in that way. So I'm going to talk about not just stealth parking, but where I stop along road trips, especially long ones. I lived in Portland for a while, Encinitas, which is right outside of San Diego, for a long time, beach parking. We're going to talk about like parking on the coast versus like more inland. So there's a lot to get to in this video. So first we're going to start with actually in a city. I've been reading over a lot of posts on, Facebook or Reddit or whatever, and it feels like there's a new crop of van lifers coming into the world, which is great. I love that. No, there is no such thing as stealth. That's why I put it in quotes every time I talk about it. But there's a level of stealth that I kind of wanted to go into. All of these posts, every time I reply, I always get a reply back from whoever asked the question was, oh my goodness, that was an enormous amount of information. Thank you so much. Normally they're asking like specific questions like, where do I park in San Diego? Where do I park in blah, blah, blah. And I usually will give my input. I always, whether it's a video or whether it's a post, whatever it is, I always go a little further than I should. I give way too much information, but I do that intentionally. I feel like more information is better than less information. So what I learned with parking in the city, a couple different things. The signage is extremely important in most cities. And again, I'm talking mostly about Los Angeles right now, but in most cities, the sign at the top is like the most important, and it goes from the top down. The sign at the top is like, the one that you have to pay the most attention to, and then you work your way down the signage. There could be a street cleaning sign on there. There could be like no parking between 2 and 4 a.m. There could be there could be height restrictions, nothing over 10 feet, nothing over 20 feet long. There could be, so you got to look at these signs really, really, really carefully. You need to know what the difference between all the signage is. So how do you know what all of that signage is? Guys, it's called Google Magic. All you got to do is look that stuff up. If you're in any city, they're going to tell you what this sign means or that sign means or that painted curb means. For example, in Los Angeles, there's, I think, 4 different types of curbs. There's red, white, blue, yellow. There was a saying between me and my van life friends in Los Angeles where we always said never park in America. Red, white, and blue don't park in. Red is like a no parking, like fire hydrant or whatever that zone is. Blue is typically handicap. So unless you have a handicap, plaque or whatever, then don't park in a handicap. Duh. White is typically a commercial loading zone. Now that's, again, in Los Angeles, maybe in St. Louis, they have a different color curb. With commercial loading, that's like the UPS, that's the FedEx drivers bringing goods into stores or whatever it may be. The yellow zones are actually a little weird. And again, you can Google this. And I didn't know this until I started Googling it. So in the city of Los Angeles, a yellow zone is a different type of loading zone. After 6 p.m., you can park in a yellow loading zone. And you have to be out before, I think it was 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. So technically, if you found a yellow loading zone like at like 5:55 and you park in it, you could technically park there for the night. You don't have to feed any meters. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to pay any, anything of that nature. I did that sometimes. I just didn't do it all the time. But that was in Los Angeles. My point of telling you all that is there may be other loading zones in other cities that allow you to do such things. So if you are in San Francisco, I would just Google, what does this curb mean? What does this color curb mean? What are the parking restrictions? For example, Hollywood parking restrictions is different than West Hollywood parking restrictions. I actually would not park in West Hollywood, excuse me. I would not park in West Hollywood. I would not park in Beverly Hills. I would not park in Santa Monica. My goodness, that's hard. Beverly Hills and Santa Monica are actually different jurisdictions than the city of Los Angeles. Now, a lot of you may not know this, but me being there as long as I did all the research for all of this. So whatever city you're in, do the proper research. Hollywood was great because I felt that the police knew every single person that was living in a van or an RV or their car. Police know this stuff, but if you're not a disturbance, they will not usually bother you. If they don't get a call on you, they will not bother you. If you like open up your side door and you set up like a patio on like the curb in a city, then the cops are probably going to come by. Don't do that. Which brings me to my next point, which is when I do park any spot in a busy urban area or even a suburb, How do I exit the vehicle? I only exited through the front door, driver's door, because it looks like that is my daily driver. It was, but it was also my home. So I entered and exit in any busy location, suburb or urban. I would exit and enter through the driver's side door. Sometimes I would even park, exit the vehicle, go walk around, make sure that people that anybody that would see me and like get out of that car right then. I'd go back to it later. Park up. There's a bunch of people around. Turn it off. Get into the back. So then people see that I'm living in it. Somebody walking past, seeing me do that, what's to stop them to calling the cops and being like, "Oh my goodness, I got some like creepy dude in a white van that's living outside of such and such location." That's You're just asking for it. So when I talk about stealth, it's not so much like we are hiding from, police or anybody else for that nature. We are blending in with our surroundings. There are so many companies out there that use these vans that we live in for their job. So it's not uncommon for people to go into these vans. If you treat it like you're going to your car every day, it actually works. The things that will tip people off are the solar panels, windows, your roof vents, possibly an air conditioner. But still, if you do not make it look like that you're parked up there for days on end or whatever it may be, they typically don't care. Couple rules that I had for parking in extreme downtown areas. I would never park in the same spot 2 nights in a row. I'll say it again. Never park in the same spot, same exact spot 2 nights in a row. You can go back to that spot. It just wouldn't be on the back-to-back nights. I would find like 4 or 5 different spots and I would just move my van through. Now, for me, I had to do a lot of digital work on my computer. So what I would do is I would get up, I would take my van over nearer to a gym or try to get a workout in. It may not look like it right now, but I actually try to work out, and I would get a workout in, and then I would take my van maybe to a coffee shop, or maybe I'd go meet up with friends, or at the time I'd go to work. And then when I go at the end of the day or when I want to park up for the night, I'd go find a parking spot. And again, I would not make it obvious. I try to go to a parking spot late enough at night after dinner time, 8, 9, 10 p.m., find that spot, and then I would leave in the morning. Done. Nobody asks questions. And that is how I avoided a door knock for as long as I did. I never got a door knock in the city of Los Angeles. Never, ever, ever. My only door knock came in Portland. You know what's funny is I parked on that street for months. The one time I invited my friend to park directly behind me. So all of a sudden you see one van, you see two vans, and all the neighbors in the area are now getting suspicious. Wait a minute, is this becoming a place where people are going to park their vans? No, no, no. We don't like that. Boop, boop, boop. They call the cops. All of a sudden I get a knock at 7 a.m. I open now at the time I had a Murphy bed, which was great. Put the Murphy bed up. I made it look like an office. So I get out of the front door. I never opened the side door. Simply was just like, "Hey, officer, what's up?" And he was just like, "Yeah, I got a call." And I changed and I wearing like business clothes. The cop was like, "Hey, sorry to bother you, but I got a call about your van." Okay, well, what was the call about? They said that they heard a generator running. Guys, I don't have a generator. I never had a generator. I never traveled with a generator. They were just making up some BS to have the cops come out and check it out. The cop was so cool. He actually talked to me for a half hour, 45 minutes, and he told me where to go. And he was like, "Dude, you're parked on the wrong street. Just go 3 blocks down and blah, blah, over here on this street over there and take a right there." That's all. Like, he was that cool because he knew the locations where he's not going to get a phone call. Now, he didn't give me a ticket. Instead, he told me where to go. In urban areas, I would definitely, actually suburban areas too, only leave out of the front door. Try and park late enough in the evening after dinner time. Typically, people aren't walking around being crazy. And I try to leave as early as I can in the mornings, whether you're an early riser at 6 a.m. or a later morning, 8 or 9. If you're out around that time, you should be fine because people tend to go to work around 8 or 9 in the morning. Places I seek out. Oddly enough, I avoid parking lots at all costs. I don't like parking in parking lots. I have done it. I just don't like doing it. I stay away from any Walmarts. I stay away from Home Depots, 24-hour gyms. I stay away from all that stuff. In my idea of stealth parking, it's hiding in plain sight. That's not hiding in plain sight. You are legitimately not hiding at all, and you are in plain sight if you do that. The parking lots that I would actually attempt to park at would be like hotel parking lots. And that would typically only be if I was driving cross country or I was going on very long road trips. These hotel parking lots, I I don't know if I want to give you guys this little trick of the trade, but why not? Sometimes I would like find a hotel like in the middle of nowhere, right? And I just wanted to sleep for the night. I'd call them up and I would say, "Hey, do you have any vacancy?" Normally they say yes, and I say, "Okay, what's the room rate? Blah blah blah, and then also what are your parking restrictions?" So you get all the information, and if they're like, "Oh, the parking's open, no passes needed," guess what? I'm parking in that lot then. That is I wouldn't do that. And I'm not telling you to do that. Be very careful doing that. But I know a lot of people that do park in those kind of parking lots. Obviously, rest areas when you're traveling great distances, rest areas I feel are good. As long as they're safe and they're clean, et cetera, and so forth. Any of those like big pilot gas stations or anything of that nature, just use your own discretion while parking at those, because I want you to go with your gut feeling. There are times that I've pulled into a rest area. I don't really feel comfortable here. I don't feel safe. And that's going to throw off your whole night. So I would just move on to another spot. That's all that I would do there. Same thing with street parking. Street parking is the same way. If you don't feel comfortable, you don't feel safe, move on. Go with your gut feeling. I will say, anybody that knows California really well, I even parked in a parking lot with my Mercedes Sprinter in the city of Stockton. So anybody that knows Stockton, it's like the murder capital of the US. I parked there overnight. I did not know this about Stockton. I was just like, I was exhausted. It was late at night. I pulled over. I fell asleep. I woke up the next morning. I left, told some people I parked in Stockton, and they were like, "How did you survive?" And I was like, "It wasn't that bad. It was fine. Hide in plain sight." Okay, so we went over some signage. Oh, the signage, by the way, I do want to touch upon this. Not only reading from the top down on the signage, but also typically signage is good for one city block. So if you read a sign at the very front of the block, it'll actually be good for that entire block. So if you park like middle of the block, you don't see any signs, you may be like, "Oh yeah, this is good. I'm good. I can park here all night." Get out of your van and go find the signage to see what the parking restrictions are in that area. Okay, apps that I like to use. This is gonna be weird because I don't like apps, honestly. I don't like apps for stealth parking, but they do come in handy to find some places. iOverlander is great. A lot of people use it. The VanLife app is an up and coming app. My friends actually own it. They run it. I think there's Free Roam, The Dirt, and it's spelled DYRT, I believe. Again, there's a bunch of apps out there that you can find all these free parking spots. And I'm sure people are going to comment and say, this website or this app will work too. But I use iOverlander quite often, especially for in a new city. And you kind of just, it takes, what people have to understand that like parking does take a while to like figure out and find out. Free government land parking isn't that difficult, but parking in the city, you just have to like kind of go through all the motions to like find out what's best. I mean, I was recently in Seattle. The spots that I found were actually off of iOverlander. Once you click on the location, it'll give a bunch of other people's reviews, or they'll tell what their experiences were. So that is why I like using that app a lot. But I think the VanLife app does this very same thing. I think parking on the coast or beach, like compared to versus parking more inland. This is actually very important for cities like San Diego, Santa Monica, and like Santa Barbara, going all the way to the coast of California, all the way into Oregon, and even parts of Washington. Here's the trick to that: don't do it. The further from the ocean you get, the easier it is to park. Now, unless you're on a actual campsite that you pay for, or that you're maybe at a rest stop that's overlooking the ocean, that is really the only time that you can like post up at a site that's on the ocean legally. Actually, there's somewhere in Malibu. I think you can do it too. I had some friends that parked right up on the beach on Malibu. However, there's a lot of signage along, especially right there on the coast, where it says no parking after 10 p.m., no overnight camping, no overnight parking, anything of that nature. It's just like, why even put yourself in that risk? After you see the sunset, you don't really need to see anything else, especially on the West Coast. San Diego has had an on and off law for quite a long time, and that is a no vehicle habitation law. When this video comes out, I actually have no idea what the law is, but I can tell you that they had a no vehicle habitation when I was in Encinitas. And what did I do every night? I got out of Dodge. I left that area and I parked more inland. I parked up in like San Marcos. Again, it was part of my routine. Drove an extra 20 minutes. 20 minutes is not that big a deal, people. And you drive 20 minutes, you find a safe and secure spot. And then I went to the gym in the mornings. That's what I did. That was my routine and I loved it. And then I'd go and hang out with my friends on the beach all day. I mean, come on, it's not that bad. Get away from that. I need to be near the beach. No, you don't. Trust me when I tell you this, they go around and they ticket you. There was one night in particular where a lot of us went out drinking, and obviously I'm not going to move my van after a night of drinking, and I just slept in my van that night. Well, one of the officers went by and literally ticketed all of the vans. So me and all my friends got tickets that night. What's interesting, the people that actually did park down there and was kind of risking getting a ticket, they didn't get tickets before that. So what happened was the whole hide in plain sight, that's what takes effects here. We were making it obvious that all of us were living in our vans that night. There was, it went from like maybe one or two vans on the street to like 10. Whoever that cop was that night just got annoyed with us and wrote 10 tickets. The ones that went into the courthouse, they dismissed all of them because it was all of our first offenses. And that goes for every single city going up the West Coast, all the way from San Diego all the way up to Portland or Seattle, just every city along the ocean. Trust me when I tell you, the further, like 15 minutes, it's not that hard. All right, so we went over signage and how to read signs, I guess, technically. We went over like maybe how to find some parking in regards to iOverlander or other apps that you possibly could use. I also went over, neighborhoods and, I'll get into that in a second. I went over maybe urban life, city life. I went over, you may have to go to a different spots. I went over traveling, maybe parking in hotels. Don't park in the same place twice. I went over that. Two other rules that I want to talk about, that I go by is never park in front of somebody's house. This is actually a really easy rule. Don't park in front of somebody's house. If you're in the suburban area, don't park in front of somebody's house. Again, don't park in somebody's front and just don't do it. It's stupid. Like you're asking for it. Unless you know the person that you're parked in front of their house, do not park in front of somebody's house. Hello, we are in big white vans that look creepy. Why would you park in front of somebody's house? I try to park on like side streets. If I am in a very suburban area, I'll try to park again, not in front of somebody's house, maybe on the side of their house or, and that one is you're just rolling the dice at that point. You're rolling the dice if somebody's got to like walking their dog and they're going to call the police. What I do if I'm in a more of a suburban area, which I did up in Beaverton, I did a little bit in Seattle. I did it in Encinitas or San Diego area, San Marcos. I did it a lot in Los Angeles. I parked or I found large apartment complexes, not the gated community ones that have their own parking spots. I'm talking like these big apartment complexes that were like, however many units. And there was a bunch of people that didn't have parking and they just, they street parked. It was just street parking lining the streets. That is what I'm talking about. So industrial areas or parking where apartment complexes are, you're not inviting a lot of attention to you. Hiding in plain sight. There I go again with that stuff. That's so much easier to park in front of a complex or near a complex because if somebody's driving by or if somebody lives in that apartment complex and they're just walking out of their apartment, walking their dog or whatever, they see a big white van, they don't think twice about it. Trust me, I know this. You're in a suburban area outside of a huge city. Somebody's walking their dog, a couple or somebody, and they just want to be that person. There's a high probability that they are going to call somebody on you because there's a suspicious vehicle and they don't want it in their neighborhood. That's all. Apartment complexes, they look at the van and they're like, oh wow, yeah, they might be living out of there. I don't know. Cool. The only time that somebody's going to knock on that is to see the inside because they want to check it out because they're probably getting into van life themselves. Obviously, I'm really passionate about stealth parking and how you park. Don't park by schools, please. Don't park near a school. It's an obvious reason why you don't park near a school. It's just a van in general, and there's a school there. I shouldn't have to go over the reasons why you don't park near a school. It just looks weird, and you don't want to be that person. And you definitely are bringing attention to you if there's a van outside of a school. If I was a parent, I would call. I'd be like, what the hell is that van doing there? My kids go to this school. I only use overnight parking as what it is, overnight parking, to go there and sleep. I would never hang out in the parking spot all day long. These simple little things will not bring attention to you. Park there at night, you leave in the morning, and that is it. I don't know why people make it more difficult than it is, but that is really the simplest way. And I could have made this video in 1 minute by just saying that. But I did want to give you guys some other tips and trades of what I've done and maybe some stories to make you guys understand this. I'm going to cut this off before I go 2-3 hours just rambling into the microphone. If you have any questions on stealth parking, please comment below and I will try to get to them. Also, if you haven't checked out my comedy page, go check out my comedy page, Who's This Effing Guy, where I'm going to be getting back into stand-up comedy. If I haven't already, I made an announcement on that channel on where I'm going to be relocating. Check out all the links below. If you have any questions on van life, van building, or anything of that nature, design is really what I'm best at. Also, check out my events page if you do want to go to an event. And guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time.